welcome to the Knights of Lorcana, an online league where players battle head-to-head via a webcam on Pixelborn and Discord in order to prove that they are the best of the best. That's right, they play one match a week in a best-of-3 match, and today we are seeing Silent Knight going off against AshleyDavies. Now, with that being said, though, too, thing to keep in mind with this, of course, is that we are halfway done through week one, and we've had some really interesting plays so far, including what the leaderboard is now looking like. And here is a peek. Because with that, of course, they are climbing up the leaderboards, and some people have additionally done their challenge match as well, and that might not have proven as beneficial as others may have thought. But with that, though, this is still a very thrilling week that we've been able to have, and it's been really fun to see how people have been able to face off against each other. And one thing that's been really surprising is we've seen a good representation of EA, surprisingly. That caught me a little bit off guard, but hey, that's where we go. And with that being said, though, guys, we have a thrilling match for you today of a Silent Knight versing off against an Ashley, where they are going Steel Song versus EA. Now, what is that necessarily going to mean? Well, it's going to be a dazzling one as they go all the way to game 3 to prove who can take this match. Now, it's sure to be a thrilling one, and without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look. All right, they have just finished their mulligan and are going ahead and getting ready for the first round. Ashley has gone ahead and put back 4 of his cards, or 3 of his cards, while Silent Knight has opted to do the same, and they are both doing their final shuffle in order to prove who is going to be able to get ahead here. Now, at the same time, what's going to be really interesting here, too, is Ashley ended up winning the dice roll, meaning that he is going to be able to go first. And that can be an absolute big advantage, especially going against Steel Song, because you're really, or Steel Mine actually, because they can go ahead and just start getting dominant in the first round. And so really, Silent Knight here is going to have to play a little hard, trying to get caught back up into the game, and hopefully can get some of his aggro going off to his advantage. Now, at the same time, though, we do have Ashley going ahead, inking a Bell first and foremost, and then going in for a Merfolk. Now, at the same time, Silent Knight opting in to go ahead and inking a Cinderella to play a Cinderella. Now, the thing to keep in mind with this as well is that Cinderellas are able to go ahead and sing up to a cost of 3 songs. Now, that's going to be really helpful there because normally you're going to be able to see a Strength of a Raging Fire or a Let the Storm Rage On, dealing either how many damage is out per character or 2 damage if you are playing Storm. So, looks like Ashley is going to be opting in to go ahead and questing for 2 with the Merfolk, and playing out an Ursula to see Silent Knight's hand. Now, it is also important to see also that if the Merfolk are taken out in a challenge, then what's going to happen is your opponent who takes out the card has to discard one in response. At the same time, if anything other than a challenge takes it out, you then are safe to being able to carry on with all of that. So, Silent Knight is going to be inking a Dock, tapping for 2, and going for a Calhoun, which could actually be pretty dominant when going against, this EA form of deck. Especially just because they are normally not able to have a whole ton of removal via actions or songs, and so they have to either attack in or, quest. And if you don't quest, you can't get lore. So Calhoun is going to be coming out and saying, hey, if you so choose to quest with that Merfolk, I have no problem with being able to gain 2 lore for that attack for a discarding of 1 card. So it's a good trade there, and especially with it being so early in the game, they're going to be 4-3 at that point once both of them either quest or attack. And so it looks like we got a Goat that is going for ink, followed up by a Cloud Kicker bouncing back the Cinderella, especially because neither of them can really even take out the Cinderella, so she very well could be singing a whole nother song this coming turn. So to prevent that, we're bouncing him back. And again, yep, he is opting to just go ahead and take care of the Calhoun here by, letting him attack in. He'd rather get the 2 lore and allow Calhoun to take it out, discard a card, and gain 2. And so that could sometimes be a little bit harder of a choice because as you're developing your board, there's a very good chance that, you might be able to get a Fox out or things of that nature to be able to deal with a Calhoun a little bit better. And so in this case, though, he is opting in to going ahead and just going on the questing forefront. Now, at the same time, though, Silent Knight is going ahead and playing a Happy and a Mine, and then going into the Merfolk and gaining 2. Now, the thing, of course, to keep in mind is that if you happen to move a knight over into the mine right there, then that means that you can deal 2 damage to a character of choice. At the same time, though, if any other card does move in there, it only deals 1 damage, and this occurs only the first time per turn that you move a character in. So you got to be a little bit careful about how you go about doing that exactly. Now, of course, they're going to go for an ink and get a genie out onto the board, which is going to be really interesting. And the thing that you got to be careful of here is Silent Knight can very well go ahead and possibly have the removal to take out a genie here with either a Zeus or, some other attack. But at the same time, Genie is very evasive. He can't be attacked by just any regular character. The character too needs to have evasive as well. And so with that being said, you got to be a little bit careful about how you go about dealing with these kinds of threats. Genie being able to quest for 2 every single turn. So right now, Ashley, of course, is considering and thinking about what they are going to do. Do you quest? If you go ahead and attack into Calhoun, Calhoun has a resist +1, meaning it takes 1 less damage per attack damage that would be dealt. And so you got to be a little bit careful about all of that. But it looks like instead he's going to opt into questing for the 1 and passing back to Silent Knight, again, allotting Silent Knight to go ahead and take the damage, but being able to gain 2 lore. Now, at the same time, if he decides to move the Happy over, he can deal the 2 damage over to either the Cloud Kicker or even to the Genie, which could be a very good way to start the removal process on the Genie. And so Ashley currently has 3 cards left in his hand, which can be a pretty big game changer on what Silent Knight might very well be deciding to do. But again, he's going into the Cloud Kicker, gaining 2, going up 6 to 5. So momentum is building here. And then, yep, of course, the Happy is moving in, dealing 2 damage to the Genie. And so right now, we're seeing a good momentum shift here, and especially with Cinderella being on the board, there's a good chance that another song could be coming out to finish off the Genie this next turn. And that's one of the biggest things about singers, especially for Amber Steel, is that they are going to be able to sing a pretty powerful card and, not have to use the ink that they have out on the board, just giving them even more utility on being able to control the board and also bringing up and building their board state and ultimately questing to get closer to winning the game. And so that's the biggest threat that you have to worry about this. At the same time with Steel Song, you got to be a little weary and worried about running out of cards. If you're unable to get a good card draw, you're just going to be in more and more trouble the later the game goes on, especially if they're able to deal with your board. And it looks like with the Elsa coming out, they're going to be doing just that, sending 3 into the Elsa to take out Calhoun, which is a great move right there by Ashley. And then, do you quest with Genie, or do you attack into the Cinderella? Because if you do opt to attack into the Cinderella, you won't be able to get the 2 quests that you might need later in the game. But instead, nope, he's going to be attacking in, and then opting to go ahead and quest for 1 with the Ursula. Now, of course, with EA, they are usually playing maybe 1 or 2 of the big Ursulas, but generally, you're not going to necessarily be seeing that. At the same time, Silent Knight is gaining 1 lore for every time that he is able to keep the mine out onto the board. And so that could be a very big game changer because he's had it out since turn 3. If this ends up being a 5 more round game, then that's 5 extra lore that he ends up getting. And at the same time, boom, he just dropped a Dock, being able to discard his hand and draw 2 cards. And then he is also opting to play a Let the Storm Rage On to finish off the Genie, stopping him from being able to quest for 2, which is, not a bad move at all. And then, of course, questing for 1. Now, the interesting thing about that is for the questing as opposed to attacking necessarily is that he's going to be able to do the quest, and he can't attack into the Elsa to be able to do 2 damage. Ursula will be able to do 1 damage to him, but that necessarily won't be enough to do any damage to Ursula as well. So, but if the Elsa decides to go into the Happy, then of course the Elsa will be destroyed in this case and put into the Banish Zone. So there's a lot of things that you're going to want to be keeping in mind, especially as you're playing at this point in the game. You know that your opponent is going to be putting in their Dock into the mine, dealing 2 damage to a chosen character, and we know that chosen character very well is going to be Elsa. So Elsa is basically on a 1-turn basis at this point. And so in this case, he is going for a rabbit to gain a 1 card draw. And that's some good options there. But at the same time, it's like the hard part is he's just not having a whole lot of board presence with attack. He has, his Chernobog followers and everything that deals either 2 or less attack. So even being able to take out the mine right now is not looking very likely. And that just means Silent Knight is going to have a lot more utility to be able to utilize during his turn to gain back the board state. He can go ahead and deal 2 damage to the Elsa, or he can even go ahead and destroy the Chernobog with the 2 damage of moving his character into the location. And that can be a big game changer as well, because if you're able to take out EA's draw power, they really can start to struggle in the mid to late game, which is what they're entering in right now. And so there's a lot of options that you have to consider, especially because it looks like right now Ashley only has 2 cards in hand. And Silent Knight now gains another lore for the library as well, going up to 10. And then with that as well, he has a couple of cards to be able to utilize. But right off the bat, he's going to be dealing 2 damage to the Elsa, which is a great move, taking care of that character. You don't want them to be able to bounce it back and then use it again. And then a Piglet coming into play, which means that Piglet's almost guaranteed to gain 3 when it does go ahead and go for the quest. Now, at the same time, unless he's able to somehow exert the ready character, he's not going to be able to take out the Piglet. And then also a Lilo coming out onto the board, 2 questing on there. And wow, going in, Silent Knight very well could be pushing for game this next round. And so right now, Ashley is on a time clock on trying to get ahead somehow. And that's going to be an absolutely difficult situation for them to be. And this is exactly what Steel Song is wanting right now. If they are somehow going to be able to get ahead and get this game won, they very well could then go in on game 3 and have the ability to go first if they lose game 2. And so this is a big deal right here and a big momentum shift and exactly what Silent Knight needed. But we cannot count EA out just yet because they have the ability to gain control of the board quickly. And at the same time, like we said, Silent Knight is just praying right now that another Elsa doesn't come out onto the board. And so when you do see your opponent go ahead and tap for 3, woo, that's a good, ideal of what they actually have in hand and what they're going to be utilizing. Now, of course, he was smart here, being able to quest and pop the Chernobog to be able to get another card to see what they possibly were able to do. And he's going to go ahead and go with the Crab to pop and boost the Rabbit, giving it +3 attack, allowing it to go in. Now, with that, though, I'm actually kind of curious because, yeah, what they are going to be able to do here. It's going to be a difficult situation for sure on them trying to be able to respond to this board state right now, because even if you aren't able to necessarily take out everything, and it looks like he's opting to take out the mine, it's like you still have, you're not able to take out. So Silent Knight's going to be able to quest for 6, going up to 18. And so this is a very difficult situation, especially only being at 9. You're not questing for a whole lot right now on EA, and so you're really just hoping that Silent Knight's top deck isn't going to necessarily be anything big. And in this case, it does look like it's just another happy. And he's going to quest with everything here, which, might have been a little bit of a misplay on Ashley's part, being able to attack in the Ursula. No, there was no happy. Nope, I was misreading. Yeah, so because the docks, yeah, those are no, we have a happy on board. He should have probably sent the Ursula into the happy to at least prevent the 1, and his Ursula still would have been on the board. Mind you, he wouldn't have been able to quest for the 1, but still, that could make a difference, especially because next turn, now Silent Knight is threatening game with the 1 character on board, whereas on the prior turn, if that would have happened, that would not have been possible. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they are then able to do to be able to get back into this game. It's not looking good for Ashley right now. Has a lot of catch up to do. If he could draw an Elsa, he probably would be able to completely change the impact of the game, especially because Silent Knight right now has 0 cards in hand. But with that being said, yeah, it looks like they're just going to go ahead and scoop up game 1, and that is going to go to Silent Knight. All right, here we go, and we are at the start of game two. Now, at the same time, Ashley has opted to go ahead and go first, and this time they have a make or break moment. They do not want to get 2-0'd in this competition at all, giving, Steel Mind the ability to just take this match outright. At the same time, though, having the ability to go first is going to be a great advantage to start off the bat. And the nice part of playing the Diablo is if he does end up even playing a Cinderella, then there's a really good chance, of course, that he's not going to be able to go for this avenue of playing a song after playing it. But at the same time, he's going straight up for the Daisy. And what's going to be interesting, too, is we did not see a whole lot of aggression and board control from EA this last turn, which is a little bit unusual. Normally, you're seeing boxes coming out, things being pumped with the crabs, sure. And we saw that last game, but we didn't see a single fox, and we didn't see a whole ton of board control like you normally expect. Unfortunately, EA just didn't happen to draw into any of that. They did manage to go into a little bit of the card draw, and that's interesting. Also seeing a We Don't Talk About Bruno being inked. But, we just did not see the board control that you would necessarily need to have during the Steel Song. So, will we be able to actually have that this go around in the match? That's going to be seen. We're going to find out. And so, we'll see exactly what happens. But right now, Silent Knight is starting off on the full aggression front. And, at the same time, right now, they don't have a whole lot of answers. They might be able to go ahead and go for a fox, but instead of questing, Silent Knight is going to be going into the Diablo just to stop it from questing. Kind of an interesting turn right there, but an interesting avenue, because either way, you're probably going to be giving, your opponent a card draw, but at least with Daisy questing, you would be able to go up two. And in this case, that's something that he just didn't opt to do. He decided to go a little bit more on the board control here. So very interesting choice right there. And looks like we're going to be going into a crab on turn 3, and the Chernabog going in and destroying the Daisy, and it wasn't able to even quest. And now at the same time, Smee at this point is only going to be going in once and being able to probably quest, because Crab would happily trade with that. At the same time, guys, this is going to be really interesting to be able to see what might be happening here as a Pluto is being inked. Silent Knight has a couple of choices here to make, especially with the cards in hand, and he's going to be just going full aggro on this send, going for the Lilo. And at the same time, because Smee doesn't have a captain on the board, he's going to be taking a damage while being exerted at the end of Silent Knight's turn. And so right now we're actually having a pretty good momentum shift here going into the Ashley's board. And this turn is going to be pretty telling. Going up to the 4 ink, you're normally going to be looking to be able to play either 2 characters out onto the board, or you're potentially looking at just playing a genie, getting your evasive out so that you're guaranteed, or at least close to being guaranteed, questing for 2. And so this turn is pretty telling, and especially this could be a big shift for Ashley here if he is going to be able to get this done. And still, being able to play the Kick Cloud Kicker to bounce back the Lilo is an absolutely awesome way to continue to dominate and control this game. I mean, it's pretty much a, hey, I got you back for what you did with Cinderella and my board last game. And so this is going to be really interesting to see what is Silent Knight going to then be able to do with this board. And instead, he's opting to just ink the Lilo, which is a really interesting turn of events. And also kind of curious to see also that there was no trade with the crab. And I mean, that's going to be an interesting avenue to go down as well, especially because, the Kick Cloud Kicker was able to do the job of bouncing something back and very well could now go into the Smee. That's not going to be the case anymore. Well, it will at the end of this turn. Um, but Silent Knight, because of that choice to not go in with the crab, he was able to then draw an extra card off of the Smee because the Rapunzel came in and healed it. And so I think we will see the Cloud Kicker going into the Smee in this case, but at the same time still being able to take out a character and take care of the healing is a pretty big deal. And there's the genie on that turn. So a great play being able to replace itself right there. And now the evasive character is on the board. And that's going to be very difficult for Steel Song necessarily to beat. Just because unless they have good removal, and in this case, he doesn't really have too much. We saw Strengths of a Raging Fire, and we saw Let the Storm Rage On. But other than that, there's really no way to go into the genies for Steel Mine, really. And so this is going to be a really interesting thing because right now Silent Knight's only up by 1, and he only has a 2 quester out on the board, and is only up one card really. So this is a big turn for Silent Knight because unless he's able to start building up his board and getting the answers out that he necessarily needs, this could be quickly turning and getting into Ashley's favor. And right now it's looking like, they're controlling the game rather well. So there's a Piglet coming out onto the board. And then with another one, a Cinderella coming out as well. So Piglet now, if everything stays in the same exact board state, Piglet would be able to quest for 3 additional. And so that can really start to do a big momentum shift there back into Silent Knight's favor as he goes for it. And he is going for the quest with Rapunzel. So odds are, you probably are guessing at this point that he has other characters in hand or is at least hoping to draw another character at the start of his turn to guarantee the Piglet. At the same time, though, you're seeing that your opponent is going up to 5 ink and being able to then potentially even playing an Elsa. At the same time, we've already seen the Elsa being inked. And so this is going to be a interesting thing because normally you're running 4. Some people run 3, but you're probably going to be theorizing that they're definitely running 4. And so once they get up to that 5 ink, are they going to be able to get an Elsa out? Because if so, then they are going to be able to take out the Piglet. But it looks like that's not going to be the case here. Instead, they're going to be getting a Snake out with the Genie instead. And Genie's just going to go right into the Rapunzel here, which is a great play. At the same time though, you're losing out again on the 2 lore that you would have been able to gain otherwise, and so it's a little bit of a risk. But the Rapunzel also going for 2 every single turn, that is something that you just do not want to have happen. And the 5 attack or the 5 willpower that it has is a pretty big indication on what it is able to do. Now at the same time, he just ended up playing the crab in this case for some board presence more than anything. Everything has already attacked, and so there's really nothing else for him to really do here. So interesting choice of play right there. But all in all, not bad whatsoever. So I'm really curious to see what else is necessarily going to be happening as this board continues to develop for Silent Knight. Because right now he will be able to quest for the 3 if he's able to just put one more character out. At the same time, though, going into the mid game for Steel Song, or Steel Mine at least, is that they're going to need some card draw power to be able to get some things continuing to move. If they're not able to do that, then this game can still continue to shift into EA's favor, especially being able to quest for 2 guaranteed and then have some good attackers on the board, both of them, Snake and Crab, being a 3/3. So Silent Knight, after thinking for a long while there, ended up, inking the Lawrence and shifting into a Cinderella. Ooh. Now that's a big move. So it's a cost 5 to shift in your Cinderella, and then whenever a song is played, you are able to attack readied characters. And the biggest thing about the Cinderella is it is a resist 2, so it takes 2 less damage at a 5/5 to be able to take it out. It's a mammoth of a character there, and the board presence now is just absolutely insane. But at the same time, what's Silent Knight going to be able to do here? He did have the Lawrence to be able to play for the Piglet, but at the same time, it's like it looks like he's just opting into going in and questing for 3, and then almost sacrificing the Cinderella for the most part. Because if the Crab goes in first, then of course then he'll be able to boost the Snake, and then both will be lost to the Cinderella, which is still a big loss. Don't get me wrong, but that's a difficult thing to be able to do, of course. And so I'm curious to see then, um, if this would have been better for Silent Knight to play the Lawrence and just not quest with the and just not play the Cinderella until later, even next round, when you would have had a little bit wider board on the table for you. And so that's going to be an interesting turn of events for Silent Knight, especially just going up 3. Yes, it is 9-4 on the lore, but at the same time, it's like there is just such a big board for your opponent to have to deal with. And Ashley does have a good amount of cards in his hand. And so it's like, what are we going to be able to do at this point in order to undertake this difficult situation that Silent Knight is really starting to find himself in? I would say that in this case, while it does help to be able to clear up the board, I really feel like the lore presence that you could have had on the board instead, going 3 for Piglet would have been taken out, and then the next turn being able to quest for 5. with the Lawrence and with the Cinderella, might have been a better play in the long run, but we'll see, of course. There's still plenty of game left. The Genie is already questing for the 2, going up to 7, making the deficit a little bit closer right now. And you got a difficult thing to be able to consider, especially with Fox coming in, getting the 3 boost. He'll be able to do the 7 needed just to take out the Cinderella outright without losing any other characters, just the 1-to-1 trade. And you still have the Crab in hand to come out later and again go ahead and, you know, continue to maintain that board presence and boosting your characters by +3 in challenges. And then of course again going in with the White Rose allowing you to gain 1 lore and moving the game closer and closer from Silent Knight being able to get any advantage. Now only the Piglet is staying out. Whereas, unfortunately, yeah, this is a very difficult situation, and this would even be something that you would be shifting into being able to deal damage to the and taking out the snake, and instead Silent Knight is opting to do 2 damage to the Genie with Let the Storm Rage On, and then he's going to be inking a Happy and playing another Let the Storm Rage On, drawing 2 cards luckily, but still using 2 assets in his hand to be able to take out a Genie. While yes, that is nice because your opponent's not going to be able to quest for the 2 every single turn. That's slowing him down, but at the same time, that was a lot of utility to take care of that character that has already put in a lot of work. And so it's going to be really interesting to see, especially now that another Genie is coming out. That's going to be a difficult situation right there for Silent Knight again, especially as, you know, Ashley here is drawing a whole nother card to add into their hand. And I mean, the board presence right there is doing a very good job. Silent Knight seems to be just running out of momentum here, especially with the loss of that Cinderella so easily. It's tough. And with another White Rose to gain up, this is just quickly falling apart for Silent Knight. A 1 versus 4, that's not looking quite good. And I mean, sure, yes, he has 6 that he is able to work with, but I think he only has now 3, maybe 4 cards in hand. And so we got to be a little bit mindful about how that's going to go. So 2 piglets, that's a good start. Because he'll be able to at least quest for 3, and with the Lilo out, that's not bad. And then inking a dock to play a dock, not bad. Drawing 2. And so that's a pretty good turn of events. And just like that, Silent Knight's board is built up, and Piglet will go ahead and quest for 3. And because of that, Silent Knight is going to have 6 on the board, being able to go up to 18 the next turn. But at the same time, it's almost too little, too late, as Ashley is going to be able to go ahead and quest for, if anything, 5, putting him at 17. And Silent Knight doesn't have game next turn, so really, I mean, Ashley's sitting pretty, can quest with everything, and then unless Silent Knight is somehow able to take it out, you might be able to do like a Strength of Raging Fire, maybe attack it to another 2, but I mean, really, if you send in Snake, you got game this next time. So, I mean, right now, Ashley's looking really good with the board presence, getting Rabbit out to draw a whole nother card, and then right now, of course, having 2 cards in hand to be able to utilize. I mean, this is just such a dangerous board, and going in for an Ursula for ink, and then going ahead and playing a goat, guaranteeing another lore out onto the table. I mean, his cards alone have gained him 3 just for being played. That can be a very big game changer, and in this case, I mean, he would only be down to 10. And if he didn't have those cards out onto the field right now, this could be a very different game and something that you wouldn't necessarily want to have, threatening. But I mean, the gaining of a 3 has completely changed the tide into Ashley's favor, which has been absolutely incredible to see. And we see the Snake also going into the Piglet. So Silent Knight's got a quest with everything, essentially. He might be able to go into something, but that's not incredibly beneficial. He might be able to take out the Snake, but at the same time, being at 17, there's not a whole lot that he can really do. And I mean, it's a GG at this point for going into Ashley's favor. But yep, looks like Silent Knight is still going to be playing this out, questing for everything, going up to, it looks like 18, and then passing back and giving Ashley game 2. And man, just an awesome display from EA right there. All right, and just like that, we go into the final game. Ashley has taken the second game. Silent Knight has taken the first. And without any further ado, they are facing off to finally win this best of 3 match. Now, what was interesting is Silent Knight ended up winning game 1, which was when he went second. And so now in the third game, he is able to go first, which can be a very dangerous thing and something that Ashley does not want to encounter. But here we are nonetheless. And so this is going to be a difficult situation for him. And he's going to just need to go full aggro on this case with EA, trying to get as much board presence as he can. Try to counter to the best of his ability what Silent Knight might be playing. If Silent Knight is playing a Cinderella first, you're just really hoping that you have, a Diablo here. Because if you don't have the Diablo, you're just going to be in trouble. And so, it looks like a Happy instead. Interesting. So yeah, no Cinderella. That's a good turn of events right there, and that is something that you as the EA player going second definitely wants to see. And then again, likewise, a response. Diablo out turn one. I mean, but what did Silent Knight even have in his hand at that point? Did he have a mind? You're almost hoping that he does have a mind. But if not, then you're just going to be in a little bit of trouble. But at the same time, that's a good board presence right there, threatening the Calhoun. So hey, if you want to quest with the Diablo, that's great. Go ahead and do that. I am going to be gaining 2 lore for you gaining 1 card draw and a lore, And in retrospect, that is a great trade because, especially with going into Steel Mine, you're able to just quest like crazy and be able to get to 20 before your opponent's even really able to blink sometimes. And we see that a lot with people who sometimes have 3 1-drops. And so turn 1, they drop a Daisy, and turn 2, they drop like a Daisy and, a Cinderella or, something along those lines. And they're just able to gain a monstrous amount. And then like turn 4, they're able to play a Smear and something. you know, Amber Steel just has a whole lot of utility that it can be able to utilize here and to just really get ahead before, your opponent's even able to fully react. And it's one of the most, if not the most, aggro deck that you can really have. And I mean, here we go again. That's exactly what we're seeing here. And then the Calhoun will be able to go in, gain 2. The Happy will be able to gain 1. And then, of course, Silent Knight is going to be threatening to gain 4 lore with his Daisy and Smi alone. And so this can be a very quick game if they are not careful. And so I'm curious to see then right now what Ashley's going to be able to do to start changing momentum back into his favor, because right now this is scary. This is not the start that you want to see as an EA player going second. You only have, 1 Diablo. Your other Diablo got taken out. You're inking an Elsa, which means your turn 5 play isn't necessarily going to be as optimal as you might be hoping. You might have another one in hand, but still, this is a very difficult situation for you to have to undertake here. And, Cloud Kicker is going to be able to slow down a little bit, especially with the Daisy. But at the same time, it's like, he's still going to be able to quest for a good amount. And of course, if you're not questing them because you're worried about the Calhoun, that's fine. The Calhoun doesn't necessarily need to quest either. It can just go ahead and stay as that constant threat on the board. And so Silent Knight right here is going to be having a big turn. He's going to need to just continue to build out his board. And of course, the Daisy, even though it did get bounced back, it only costs 1 to play. So it's not a full loss. And another Calhoun coming out with the Daisy. And Silent Knight isn't inking for turn either. And so he's gaining 3. Doc, of course, will be able to, or not Doc, Smee will be taking a damage, and he's questing with the Calhoun and passing, because yes, he still has the threat of the other Calhoun onto the board, and so this is quickly shifting, and this is not what, Ashley's wanting to see right now. I mean, look at this board presence, 5 characters out compared to the 2, and I mean, sure, he might be able to play 3 on his own as well, but Silent Knight, I mean, he only has 3 ink onto the table, and he has 5 characters out. And you might see the Cloud Kicker trading into the Smee, and that would be a good move, at least slowing down a little bit. But at the same time, Silent Knight is stopping his opponent from even questing with the Diablo, which is just going to keep putting him further and further behind. And one thing that we have seen players utilize as well is sending the Diablo into a character that is exerted just to guarantee the card draw. And so this might even be something that, Ashley is considering here as well. But in this case, nope, not going to. And so Silent Knight is going to be questing instead for 5 right here. And, the board presence that Ashley is having is not very big right now. He's going to be going ahead and popping 2 damage onto the Genie. So if the Genie even wants to attack into anything, now it's going to be taking some very dangerous damage. A White Rose is added to hand from the Daisy, which is great. And then going to be questing for 4 total, going up to 12. Now, it was really interesting, though, because Silent Knight didn't play any additional characters out, but he did at least get the 1 card draw and quest for 4. And so right now it is 12-2. That 10 lore differential can be a very difficult thing to catch up from. And right now we need to see some Fox coming out. We need to see some Fox to take out something. You're going to be either going straight into the Calhoun, but even then that doesn't necessarily feel good because there's another Calhoun onto the board. You could take out the Daisy and then let the Calhoun attack in, gaining 2 lore and trading, but that's still such a difficult board presence to have to undertake. The 2 Calhouns are just absolutely dangerous right now for Silent Knight, but it looks like we're going in the right direction with a Diablo being able to be boosted by the crab coming in and taking out a Diablo. That's half the battle. And then at the same time, though, Genie is in a difficult predicament as well. Questing for 2 would get you up to 4. Oh, and nice. Okay, cool. That helps a little bit too with the Bonsai. Being able to either quest for 2 or having 3 attack. That can be a pretty big game changer right here. And then he is going to be questing for 2 and then passing to Silent Knight. Ugh, that's going to be dangerous here. We're going to see what Silent Knight even has onto the board, what he could possibly do. And inking a Rapunzel for the 4th ink. That's got to be a little bit painful, but a Storm Rage on the, not the Genie, on the Bonsai. Taking out the Bonsai, because, I mean, at the same time, if Genie goes into anything outside of, I mean, he might be able to go in and do a little bit of board control, but otherwise, the Bonsai could do a whole lot more damage, and normally you're more okay using the Bonsai as an attacker, and an Ursula will be going into hand. At this point, that's pretty much ink. The Ursula is almost dead in this matchup just because Silent Knight's been playing his songs, and normally they don't have very many songs in their deck, at least in the Mind version. If this was Steel Song, of course, that would be different. But in the Mind version, they're normally only playing 8 songs, 4 Strengths of a Raging Fire, and 4 Let the Storm Rage On. And so this is going to be an interesting thing. Silent Knight's already at 15. He's threatening 4 more this next turn. This is tough. This is really tough, especially seeing that Ashley is now down, by 12 lore, and we're just starting to enter the mid game here. And so you at least have the 5. Can you play an Elsa? Can you start getting some board control with that? You can go Elsa and then go into Daisy twice. You can maybe play a Fox to take out the Daisy. But even then, Silent Knight has 3 cards in hand, 4 ink to play with. And so he's going to be going in for the Bell, moving 2 damage off of Genie onto the Calhoun, which, oh, he took out the Happy. You can take out the Calhoun with the Bell, which is really interesting because it's moving damage counters. It's not moving damage. And so the resist that Calhoun has doesn't get into effect. One thing that's really interesting too is you can even move 2 damage counters on your opponent's characters onto a different character because it says chosen character to opposing character. And so that's a really interesting game state as well. I think that's the biggest thing there as well, is that Calhoun ignores, or Bell ignores the resist on Calhoun, and would have destroyed it, which would be, holding back Silent Knight from being able to gain 2 lore with Calhoun going into Crab and going up to 17. This is just a dangerous board state that we're finding ourselves in for Ashley here. But I mean, is doing a good job being able to have at least the Bell out, which is a 4/4, and can quest for 2. So Silent Knight trades and gains 2, goes up to 17, but he's just got so much time. The fact of the matter is it could very well be taking Ashley 3 turns to catch up to the lore count that Silent Knight has. And at that point, unless Elsas are coming out or things like that, he can't change the ready state of the characters. And kind of interesting that Silent Knight is playing the Smee for ink. Wonder what he has in his hand at this point, just because the Smee could be very valuable as well. Oh, going for a dock. Okay. And a dock. Okay, yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So now things are, at least if you quest, they count 1 less, which is good. And with the other dock, of course, he's able to draw 2 cards to continually fill his hand. He'll have 3 cards to play with at the start of his next turn, which is really good. And so when we did see that Ashley has we don't talk about Bruno, so he could even go that route, bouncing something back and then discarding a card at random. Could be a pretty utilizing play right there as well. And so the Clarabelle right now is kind of a dead card on the board. It might, it can quest for one, but the board presence that it necessarily has isn't very big at all and very difficult to answer with. But that's one of the pieces that you needed to see was the Elsa coming out onto the board. And so right there, the dock is exerted and going to be taken care of either with the Bell dealing 2 damage to the Bell and 2 damage to the Elsa, and then quest for 3. I mean, right now that could be a good starting point to start taking back this game for Ashley. And so you're just really hoping right now though that you can keep dealing with your opponent's board state, but at the same time being at 17, this is going to be tough, especially because there's only so many bounce backs that you can technically do, and there's only so many else's that you necessarily have. And so also you might not necessarily want to use a cloud kicker even to bounce back the dock, because then you could just rebuild your board and draw 2 additional cards. But hey, playing the Merfolk, that's a good turn of events right there. And there goes the Genie questing for 2. And same with the Clarabelle. So, I mean, this is looking good. Starting to build the game and take the game back. But again, Silent Night now is going up to 18. 5 ink to play with, 3 cards in hand. Ugh. We are going to see. There's a Lilo. It can be bounced back by Kit. And there's 3. Or a Let the Storm Rage On, taking out the Bell. So the main forefront of attack, 4 damage, gone from the board just like that. Questing for 1 to go up to 18, and Lilo is threatening the board. Now, at the same time, unless you have another Elsa, or if you have a Snake in hand or a Fox in hand, you can bounce back. That's a good turn of events right there as well. But at the same time, if you don't have that, then this is a game. And so that's something you got to just be very careful of. This is a tough situation, especially with how many Elsas we've already seen either inked or played. Same with snakes and foxes. Even though you're running 4, it is a 60 card deck. And with how slow right now Ashley is playing, I don't think he has the utility needed to take care of the board. There's an Elsa at least. That's a good start. There's an Elsa. If he could clear the board, and Silent Night might not have the answers, if he's drawing into songs instead of characters, then this could quickly turn around. And it's like, oh, does he then play he has 1 card in hand, 2 at the start of the turn, or 2, I think he has in hand right now. And so it's like, does Silent Night activate the Lilo at the start of the turn? Especially with how few of cards he has in hand. Now, of course, it will be exerted, and his opponent would probably just throw in, a quick two attack, just throw in one of the Elsas to take care of it. But right now it's 10 to 18. We get to see Silent Night hand. Oh, it is a Rapunzel and a Lawrence. That's interesting too, because unless they have another Elsa, Kit Cloud Kicker wouldn't be able to bounce back because it has 4 attack. And so Silent Night, could throw out 2 characters onto the board depending on what he drew. If he drew a song, then really he's only relying on the Lawrence at that point, hoping that they don't have a way to take care of it. At the same time, we see that, Ashley has 6 in his hand, so he could go Snake. Yeah, he could go Snake Elsa if he has that, but this is relying on a lot, because right now he could get to 19. He can get to 19. So even a goat or Rose could completely end this game right here in Ashley's favor. And so what's it going to come down to? Does he have the answers? And I don't think he does, just because right now he's not playing fast like he drew a goat or he drew a white rose. He doesn't have the bounce back either. So yeah, even if he did, he would need a snake, not a fox. He wouldn't be able to play the Elsa back out if he had a fox in hand. He would need 1 more ink to be able to do so. And so this is a dangerous situation. This very well could be game. You're seeing Ashley, deeply think about the course of action that he can take here. but it doesn't seem like he has the answers. He's tapping for 4, and he's going into big Clarabelle. That's still not going to do anything. That you're gonna be able to gain 1 more lore. Yeah, and so that's gonna be 9. That's gonna be 9. And he shows a Diablo in hand. I think that's gonna be it. In that case, yeah, that's gonna be it. Oh man, what a game! Man, that third game, especially towards the end. I mean, Ashley very well could have come back. And again, that's going to be the interesting thing here, too, on, who actually would have gone first if game 3, if EA would have gone first. They very well could have been taking this game, and it could be a very different story. I mean, that's just absolutely amazing to see, going 20-19 with Silent Night taking the game and the match. All right, guys, and that's going to be it for us. I mean, that was an absolutely thrilling match between Silent Night and Ashley going head to head in this amazing league. Now, if you guys do want to make it and join this league, go ahead and join the Discord down below and accept the Lore Knights role and go ahead and sign up in the sign up section below. Just because the season is going doesn't mean you have to miss out on the excitement. And if you so choose and you like the content that we are building, go ahead and like and subscribe this video. It helps us out a whole ton, and we make daily content, especially of the casting of these amazing matches. So without any further ado, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.